Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Figure This Thing Out, the RPG Engine. And this episode promises to be one of the most fun, at least as far as I'm concerned, because I'm going to be going over, once again, whatever I've learned for animation. We are going to take everything that you've seen and we're going to put some real life to it. This is genuinely something that's really interesting, that's loads of fun, and I think adds quite an interesting dynamic to this program. So let's start out real simple here. I'm going to go through and show you what you can do, and then I'm going to break it down, show you how I did everything, and we'll go from there. So let me just start out nice and simple here. You see I got a few friends, got myself and a few buddies I've made here, and we're just going to start off simple. So as you see, we are in the play menu. We will be going back and forth between both the play and the build menu quite a bit for this, because many of the animations you're going to trigger will be while you're playing the game itself. So we'll just start off here nice and simple. And as you see, I just did a simple left click on the character, and we've got a little window open up down here. Gives us a whole list of emotes, dances, poses, all types of things that we can get into, all types of ridiculousness. Now, let me see here. Where was the one I liked? So we're going to get him going. That looks really unsafe with that sword. Then we'll click on the next, and he's going to just, boy, that looks rough. He's just beating himself on the head. And then, oh my, okay. That's just bad. They're just beating themselves senseless over there. They're just, look at this. And, oh no, he's injured himself. You see what happens? He's gone and injured. Oh, no, now he's injured himself. He's looking for help. Oh boy. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, this one's actually just pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then whenever you want it to end, just unclick that particular emote. Go ahead and unclick. And there you go. Actually, I have them in combat ready stance, so I'll take them right out of it. And there you go. That's nice, simple animations for the characters themselves. But let's get into a bit more of some of the more fun stuff here. So let's see. I got myself a nice little bike here, as you see. And I've already gone and set it up a path, and we're going to click, patrol, and look at that. We've got ourselves a nice little moving item, and it goes pretty much wherever I designate it to go through. So at the moment I have it set up with just these 3 points. As you see, boom, boom, boom. Let me go ahead and stop it. Just unclick patrol. There we are. Now if I go back into the build menu here, click on it again. As you see, another window here opens up on the left. Now we're used to seeing this. We scroll down a bit further, and here we've got our random and our patrol. We already had the patrol. Let's go ahead and set the random. And that's exactly what it's going to do. It's just going to keep walking all over the map. It will avoid certain assets. Larger assets, when it does bump up to them, it will turn and move away. So we're just going to leave him for now, and I'll get back to how I had him set up. So we'll go back to our play window. And as you see, I got myself a couple of fighters here. We'll back up so you can get a better look. So you can set these to move very simply across simple planes. So we've got our axis 1, and we've got our axis 2, and then of course you've got your axis 3. Or you can go ahead and send the entire armada at once. Huh? Yeah, you can chain them all together pretty well. Let me show you over here. Close that one out. Zoom in. So I got myself a bunch of torches here lined up. I'll explain this a little bit later. Let's go ahead and light them up. Boom. All lit at once, or you can go through individually and light them as needed. But I have it set up. We're going to go ahead and trigger this, and boop, 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 boop. We'll go ahead and stand them up. Got all of these chained together to work like that. Now here's a little nifty one I've been working on. It's got some issues, it's got some bugs, but let me show you here what I've got going on. and boing. Now there is one drawback, at least to the design I use to do that. It has to reset itself. But as you see, the animation can do quite a bit. If we come over here, I've got myself a couple of boulders here, and we're going to go ahead and trigger this. And now the impassable is passable. Slide that back. Same over here. We've got ourselves a wall. We're going to trigger it, and the secret passage has been revealed. Pretty neat, right? And there is still another motion, which we will get to in a little bit, but let me go ahead and show you how I got most of these going. You already saw, oh yes. And as I said, you can chain these together. Now here's my good friend Blueberry. Blueberry's got himself a seat on his little unicycle here. He's just chilling out. Let me go ahead and find it. I know it. There we are. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here because I have to get through all of his emotes before I get to this. Let me go ahead and give you a bit of a view. I'm going to trigger it. And as you see, all of those are connected and chained together. Let me go ahead and reset it. If you take a good look, the wheel turns as he slides forward, and just as he meets the barrel starts to slide. One more time. All of that chained together. Simple animation to set up. So let me go ahead and show you some of the basics, and we'll move on up. So we'll go back to our build menu, and now you can see all these little orange and white balls all over the screen. All right, so let me go ahead and open back up our builder window. Yes, if I forgot to mention it last time, and even if I did, let me repeat myself. Over on our builder menu, we have another little hammer. If we go ahead and click this little hammer, look at that. Look at that. We no longer have to try and resize this to get it out of our way. We just go ahead and click the little hammer, and boom, it's out of the way. All right, you know what? Let's stop let's stop your random roam, and we'll get back to him. Okay, so, as I was saying, you have both these orange balls and these white ones. Now, first off, let's focus on these orange balls. So I'll open back up our building menu. I'm just going to type in automation. Well, I could have sworn it was there. Never mind. So I will just check under tools. Animation, not automation. Okay, so the orange balls are custom animation. Now, let's go ahead and set up a scenario here. So, these jets are stealth fighters. Yes, here we are. We'll drop one in. As you see, it is a little bit off size compared to the others. So let's go ahead and scale it down a little. Pull it up. There we go. We've got ourselves another fighter in place. Get it out of the way some. Okay. Now, animation. There we are. We grab ourselves our little orange ball. We go ahead, drop that in. And now, placement of the orange animation node, as it's referenced, is somewhat critical depending on how fancy and complicated you want to get. So, for instance, with this, I'm just going to show you how to do basic, simple movements, so it's not too much of a big deal. So we're just going to go ahead and pick it up here, move it over. I like to get it somewhere where it's fairly easy, fairly straightforward, and in line with it. Beautiful. And if we want, we can go ahead and shrink it down just a little so it's not as bulky. Now, this is the next key element. We're going to go ahead and click on our little orange ball. I'm just going to go to selector so we don't have arrows all every which way. And we're going to come down here to parenting. Now, you've got several options. Set parent, set child, and then remove parent, remove child. Pretty straightforward. Now, what the parenting system is essentially is think of it like a follow the leader. Whichever object you set as the parent is going to be the leader and dictates what any of the children do. And whatever the parent or leader does, the child will follow in unison. So let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to go ahead, set parent. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that, see how it's now lit up blue? I'll move off it. It's back to orange, but see now how it's got that blue tint to it. So we'll go ahead and click. There we are. We're going to set child, and all I want to do is just, there we are. We got our stealth fighter in blue. Click, and there. Now they're joined. Whoop, I don't want that. So I come back up here, go to my movement, and now when I move the custom animation node, the ship goes with it. And whatever I do to the node, if I go ahead and resize it, it's going to join it as well. Now this is the key to the animation itself. So now that we've got that all set, back to my selector, we're going to come back here to our prop setting window. We're going to scroll down. So I do recommend when setting up multiples of this to give them all names to make sure that it's easily identified and recognizable. Otherwise, you're going to make life very difficult for your self. Yes, or your scythe, whichever. Below name, we have duration, which is fairly straightforward. It goes in seconds, so we can leave it at 1. We can go ahead and set it to take 20 seconds. We can have it take 2 seconds. We can even go ahead and drop it down and have it go in a fraction of a second. So 0.2 seconds, 0.5 seconds, 1.3, whatever you need it to move at, you can go ahead and adjust it. And now the other crucial one right down here below it is start delay. And this is what really comes in handy when you start doing chain animations. So for instance, the barrel that I have rolling off of Blueberry's unicycle, that is chained all of this together, and it has, let me go ahead and click on it just so we can look. The barrel. There we are. It has a start delay of 0.4. So 0.4 seconds after this animation is triggered, this one will then start. So let's go back on over to here. All right. So now come down a little bit further, and you see we have 2 more options. Set start and set end. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to do this nice and simple. Go back to our movement arrows, and I'm going to hit set start. This is our starting position. And then I'm just going to pull the 1 arrow forward, and we're going to set end. Boom. And there's our end position. Now, just a little thing I like to do, I often find it's easier to set the end point first and then reposition it and hit the start, set your start. But that's just a personal thing with me. I don't know if it necessarily makes it any easier. Anyhow, so we've gone ahead and got our points set. We can go back to our play window. And if we go ahead and click on our little friend the jet here, a little window pops up. It's going to reset. That's generally why I recommend setting your end point first and then setting your start position second. This way your animation's already ready to go. But as you see, we just click forward and back, exactly as we had set it. Okay, we'll go back to build. Now if we want to change that, so we're going to go ahead and tell you what, let's go ahead and grab this right by here, and we're going to pull it all the way. We're going to do something funky like this. There we go. We're going to set our end. Oh. And we're going to grab it again. We're going to pull it back down. We're going to say that's our start. Go back to our play window. Tap on it, and there's our trigger, and boom, and boom. And as I said, you can go ahead and change some of these settings. So let's say we want that to take a little bit longer. We'll have that take 3 seconds to complete. Lock it in. We'll go back to play, click on it, trigger, and as you see, it moves dramatically slower, taking 3 seconds instead of 1 to complete. And if we go back to build, click on it one last time, we got our start delay. I'm just going to do this nice and simple. We'll set it to 0.3 so it doesn't take all day. Back to play. Click on our plane, hit our trigger, And as you see, it stuttered for a second. It took it a moment to get back. Same with returning. And same with these walls. Nice and simple, straightforward animations. I just did starts, I did ends. And then if we go back out, I know it's located up here. There's our trigger. Nice and simple. And that's the basics of setting up the movement itself. And this can also be done to rotate items, as you saw here with my good friend Blueberry's unicycle. We'll go back to play, find my invisible node, come down, custom animation, click it. As you see, the tire moves as well. And that was simply a case of taking one of these nodes, setting it in, and positioning in this particular case is very important because if it's positioned, since we're trying to do a circle, if it's positioned off center, as it rotates, the tire is not going to rotate perfectly on it. As I said, the child is going to match the parent, but if the parent is 5 feet away and decides to start rotating in a 90-degree arc, the child's going to do the same, but from 5 feet away, so that arc is going to be that much dramatically bigger. I'll demonstrate later what I mean, and it'll become a lot more clear. But again, so all I did was drop a node in here, and what I did for its start and end positions, back on you, is I simply hit start at this point, and then I rotated the wheel to another position, hit end, and voila. I mean, you can certainly adjust it more and fine-tune it to get it precise, but I don't think it was too bad for sort of a just sort of lucky shot in the dark, if you ask me. I guess it could go a little bit faster. Yeah, I definitely could have rotated it a bit more, but again, I think it looks pretty good. Now, as far as chaining these together, let's go over here where it's a bit simpler, because he can be a bit complex. So go ahead back to our build menu. All right, as you see, I have a whole row of animation nodes, and now we'll discuss our white friend here, which is the blank invisible locator. So what I did is I would drop one of these nodes on. I would set the start position. Well, that should be 0, but we set the start position here at the beginning, and then I simply pulled them down to here and hit end. And that's where their ending position was. Look at this. Look at this. Control Z, Control Z. There we are. And then what I did is I ran through and I set delays. So this is the first one, runs for a second, and it starts immediately. The second one, however, runs same amount of time, but I set the delay a half a second. And then so on down the line. Another half a second to make it a full, another half a second, and then another half a second. And once again, I would click on these, go back to my selector, up here, parenting, make sure you set the parent as the animation node, and set the child as whatever object it is you want to move. Now this will go back over to our blank invisible locator, and this works exactly in the same manner. So we went up to parenting, we set the parent as the blank invisible locator, and then we went through and we set each one of these nodes as a child. And once that was all set up, we simply went back to play. We have to, I don't believe, let's see, can I click? Right, that's individual. So we click, and that brings up any of the available animation options. There's to light them all, and then we can just, there's our custom. Nice and simple. Raise them all back up. Again, these are so named, as you can see. They are blank, they are invisible, and I guess they locate things. But that is slight problem when using them, is that they do kind of disappear. So that's why over here I have, where is it? Oh, I have one sitting here on the pedestal. This way, when I go back to the play menu, I know roughly where I should click to bring it up. And this is why it's important to have names on your animations, because I could be clicking back here on just the single fighter. As you see, that just says trigger. And this here is the custom animation trigger. Same with down here by Blueberry. I just have a stick sitting out of the ground, but that stick is there to signify, for me anyway, that I have the locator right there. Speaking of chaining everything together here, back to my friend Blueberry, this is the most complicated I have set up here on the map, and honestly it is not that complicated once you understand how they all work. So let's ignore the barrel for right now. Let's just focus over here. So what we have, first I started with the wheel. Let me back up, in fact, just show you here what I did. So we'll go ahead, we'll take ourselves, we'll drop a wheel in. Nice and simple, plain old wheel. Then we're going to go ahead next, we want our animation nodes. We're going to need 2. So let me just drop these out here so I have them. Okay, we're just going to pick up one at random and move it like we would any other. As you see on the other, I had it positioned in the wheel. Scaler, we're going to go ahead and shrink it because we do want this to fit somewhat right. If we do not, and I will demonstrate that, so let's go ahead and here, in fact, let me just move this over slightly. Let me show you what happens if you have it offset. So we'll go ahead and set that as the parent, set the wheel as the child. Go back to base. Now this is going to be our start position. 1. Now we want to rotate it. See what I mean? The parent is staying perfectly still in the same exact position, but the child is rotating on that same axis, which unfortunately in the case of this wheel throws it off. Let me undo these. So we will go and oops. Okay, so as you see, I tried to move the parent into positioning and the child went with it. We simply come down here to remove children, and now it will move freely once again. So we just want to make certain we have this position nice in the center. Go back to selector, it just makes it easier. That is good enough for me. Now, as I said, we will go ahead and set child on that wheel. And now, we should have a rotating wheel. Wow! I apparently changed the absolute wrong thing. What in the world? What did I have you do? Alright, let's reset these. This is our start position. Set start. And now we will rotate. That is our end. Try this one more time, see if it shrinks out of existence again. There we go. That's exactly what we wanted to see happen. I have no idea what I did before, but as you can see, the options of what you can do, you can set the animation for pretty much any of the parameters. Go back to my build window here. So if you want, you can switch to the scaler and you can completely squish this thing if you have a boulder fall on it. As you saw, I shrunk it down there to disappear backwards and completely vanish from sight. I honestly don't know what I clicked to do that, but I'm impressed nonetheless. So once we have our rotation animation in place, just ignore the rest of the trappings on here because they all follow the same patterning. So what I'll do is I'll take my next one here. Hopefully I can see it. And this one I'm just going to put right up here near the front. And in fact, we'll go ahead and scale it down. Whoa, that was Control Z. That Control Z is a lifesaver. There we are. That's nice and lined up with the front of it. Just for reference, this wheel node here is the equivalent of that one. And this node here on the front is the equivalent of the one that, well, it looks like Blueberry is sitting on. So again, now if you remember, we parented this particular node, this animation node, into the wheel itself, and now it allowed us to turn it. To chain these together, we're going to go ahead and set this next one here as the parent, and then we're going to set the child as the previous node, because that is controlling the rotation of the wheel. So what one does, the next will follow. We'll click on that. Now, when we go back to movement, when we move the parent, the child comes with it. So we will go ahead and set, we'll slide over here, back to base. We will set our end, slide it over here. We'll set our start, go back to play, click. Nope, I forgot a step. Ha ha ha, I forgot a step. Now that they are linked together, this is where our blank invisible node comes in. We just go back to tools. This is what allows us to trigger all of them simultaneously instead of individually, because if we go back now and we click, we're either going to get the trigger to move it forward, or we're going to get to rotate it, whichever we happen to get. Okay, so just like we set up with the torches, we're going to head and set our invisible node as the parent, and we're going to go ahead and set the child as our previous animation node, because everything prior to that is child to it. Click on that. We'll go ahead and go back to our play menu. We know where our node is hiding. There we are, animation, and boom. Wheel moves both forward and back, and as you see, it is rotating. Although I set it up wrong, so it's kind of rotating funny like. Regardless, that is how we chain the animations together. To add in pieces, go back to our build menu. All I had to simply do was make sure that these, back to the selector, both of these sticks that I used, these poles, and then the seat that he is on, and himself were all parented, were all set as children under this main parent. This is the parent that moved forward and back. Click on it. So if we did not set each of these pieces to be a child under that particular node as a parent, they would stay there as everything else moved forward. Let me see if I can demonstrate that real quick. Let's pull ourselves up a pole. Nice simple pole. We'll just put that right into the wheel. And we'll go back to our play menu. If we find our invisible node and activate it, as you see, the pole did not go anywhere. Go back to the build menu. However, if we come down to this node, as we know this is the one that goes forward and back, parent, we go ahead and set the child on this pole. Beautiful. Go back to our play menu, trigger our animation, and the pole goes right along with it. So always remember that you have to connect all of the children to whichever parent is going to be next in line. This way they all move in the same fashion. Fashion. Yes, that too. Fashion, doesn't matter. Now if I'd gone ahead and parented this to here, it would just rotate, and we'd get a very interesting spoke-like look going on. Cool, but not very helpful for this particular demonstration. All right, let's go back to our friend the roaming Harley. There you are. All right, what say What say we just get you out of there? Nice little move feature. We'll just bring him. Come on. Yep, nope. Come on. Down here so we can get a better look at you. Okay. Go back to our build menu. What we have here is just a simple prop, one of the motorcycles. What's important is right down here, the entity base. So let's get out. What I'll do, open back up the building. Let's get our entity base. There we are. We'll drop that in. And the reason we use one of those is because that's what these are connected to. So as you see, we scroll down. Your entity base is what allows you to have the roaming or the patrol set up. So we've dropped our base. Now we just need to find whatever it is we want to move. Let's go ahead and get silly with it. We got a scarecrow? Look at that. We got ourselves a scarecrow. So we're going to put Mr. Scarecrow right on top of it. Once again, click on it. Go up to parenting. We're going to set the parent as our entity base. We're going to set the child as our scarecrow. And now we're all set. So we can go ahead and set him to patrol. Now, here's the trick to setting a patrol, nice and simple. See, you have two options, new and clear. Where he is standing currently at any point will be where it drops when you say patrol new. So we'll go ahead and click one here. And now I'm going to want to move him. So we'll go back to our arrows. And let's say we'll just pull him up here. And we'll again hit patrol new. Now you see we've got this nice little green line here. And if we go ahead and hit patrol, and there he goes. He will apparently pass through the Harley. That's fine. And as you see, if we go back to our play window, we just go ahead and tap on our friend here. Once again, the options come up. There's the patrol, which is already preset. And then we've got our random roam as well. You also have the option here to adjust movement speed, so it's currently taking him 3 seconds to complete this. Let's go ahead and speed him up to 1 and patrol. Okay, apparently movement speed goes in the opposite direction. So what we want to do is send this up to, say, 6. And let's see him move. There we go. Boy, look at him go. But that's the basics of setting up either the patrol or roam. So we'll go ahead and turn him off, go back to our build menu, click on him. Once again, no, not the scarecrow. We want the entity base itself. And if we want to get rid of that particular patrol, we just go ahead and hit clear, and boom, all gone. But there is one other animation I want to show you, so give me a moment. We'll jump to another map. Okay, here we are. What I want to discuss now is a fun little item called the Auto-Rotator. Now, this particular water wheel is already animated. When you put it out there, it's already rotating on its own. However, this post, the blade, these gears, these I've all set up using the Auto-Rotator. As the name implies, it is a tool you set out, and using the same mechanics as the animation node, so using parent and child, you will simply get things to rotate on an axis. So let me go here back to the build menu. You see these little purple arrows moving around. There's a tiny one right here on the edge of the saw blade. Those are Auto-Rotators. Go ahead and rotator. You know what? My spelling's not that great. Let's just go check out Tools. Auto-Rotator right there. Boom. All right. Now, the Auto-Rotator, while useful, as you see, it can put some nice, consistent, constant movement going. So here what I did is I set up a beam. This is actually a fancy post, so it's meant to be standing up. Then I found a saw blade. I simply set them to the right size, connected them to the side of this, and off we went. I just simply had to drop one of these auto-rotators on, set it as the parent, and then set both the saw blade and this post as children, and we were all set to go. And see, you can change the rotation speed if you need, but that's usually best done while you're still in this frame. Just my opinion. And as you see over here, what I've done is I've set them up, and we've got a set of working gears. So I just simply put one this way, dropped the second one out, rotated it around, and dropped it in here. Now, this is where they get tricky, and why I don't necessarily recommend using a lot of auto-rotators, as they can be quite difficult to work with. So let me show you. If you remember in the previous map, as we were working with things, I said it's very important to make sure that things line up, or you're going to start to get some weird curves. As you saw, we had the tire going in a strange formation. Well, we're going to get the same sort of thing happening here. Let me go ahead and set this. That's what I needed. Oh, because I have it set as snap to grid. All right, so here we are. We got ourselves our auto-rotator. I've set the perpendicular Y so it slaps nice and cleanly on. All right, so much the same as with the tire, if we set the auto-rotator slightly askewed to the side, we go ahead and set the auto-rotator as our parent, and we set the wheel as the child. Go back to base. Rotation speed, let's just set it at 1 so you can get a look, and it's off. And as you see, that gear is now turning on the center axis of the auto-rotator and not the center axis of the gear itself. Let's go ahead and set you back to 0 again. So what I would recommend you do is you scale this down. Not you. Oh, that's right. That's right. We have to remove the child before we can adjust anything. There we are. So we scale down the parent. And what we're going to try to do is find a spot where it looks like it's going to fit. There we are. That looks pretty lined up. So we'll go ahead and reset the gear as the child. We'll go ahead and set our rotation speed. And there. Now it's turning in a nice perfect circle. The other difficulty with these is it's very easy to get them off angle when you start moving them from the position they were spawned in on. In fact, to get this one rotated around so that it's going in the opposite direction, I actually went to the other side of the wall, spawned it in here, and then pulled it through. So this way I didn't have to rotate it whatsoever on its axis, because once you start moving these, they can be a little tricky to get back into the right spot. Let me show you what I mean here. So let's go ahead and remove children quickly. And what I want to do is go ahead and change just slightly, just the tiniest bit, a teeny little bit of rotation on that. Now, at this point, it's very hard to see. Oh boy, it's very hard to see just because of the way I control things. But it doesn't look like it's too off kilter. Well, it sure does from up here. But it doesn't look too bad. So if we go ahead, reset the wheel as the child, and we go back over, we get our rotation speed going again. Boom. And if you look, the wheel is now going on this strange axis and starts cutting through the wall. So it is somewhat important that you make certain you get these about as level and as plumb and flush and straight and square as you possibly can if you're really looking for them to add a lot of depth and detail. I mean, if you're not trying too hard, most people won't notice, but it depends on how difficult you like to make your life. Me, I like to make my life very difficult. I spent way too much time setting up a single post and a single saw blade. But again, I was working with these auto-rotators, and I was not placing them properly. I was not using the perpendicular settings so that you can get it exactly flush up and down or flat, and it was making life very difficult, very frustrating for me. So I do recommend using any and all tools available. Click any buttons possible. Sometimes they do make your life a bit easier. Well, all right, I think that about covers the basics of animation. With what I've explained there, you can get quite a lot done. You can build on quite a bit. You can put together a lot of movement and experiment with it. As you saw, I had a few little examples out there, but given that you can connect most any piece to these movement nodes, chain them together, make them do all types of things, let your imagination run wild and have fun with this one. So I think I'm going to call it here, and I will see you all next time. And until then, you all take it easy.